And also, I would like to have a content warning again, even though it was on the announcements that I will be talking about in passing mostly about homelessness, drug use, and there will be mentions of abuse and police brutality, possibly, depending on how far I get into this conversation. Since I have a vague outline of what I want to say, but this will also be based on what others in the audience have to say too. So, yeah. All right. Um, let's see. So, I first would like to introduce myself. I, within the collective, am called Sephiroth, as I'm sure you've seen since I talk a lot here. Um, so, hmm, I'm unsure where to begin with this. I guess first I would like to ask, is there anyone else who um, is also within a system who considers themselves to be how do I say this? Not necessarily a fictive, but someone who identifies with or as like a being which is considered fictional here. Oh, okay. Is there anyone who would like to come up and talk, or it's alright if you wouldn't? Make this less of a broad thing that I'm saying. I guess like something considered like of course dragons here are considered fictional, though I mean like uh how hmm so the way that there is like specific characters in which people might uh identify with or as. Also, Turtle, if you are uh raising your hand, I am not able to see that. I'm going to change my voice settings real quick. I just realized I'm on push to talk, and I haven't been pushing it every single time. One moment. Okay. Are you all able to hear me still? I fixed my voice sensitivity as well. Okay, wonderful. So I suppose I'll try to use some of what I have written down here because I am blanking very bad. Um, so I guess I will start with what I consider my specific awakening here, that I had a while ago. Um, so I was not always within the system. I, in fact, was more a kind of idea that other people in the system had. And by idea, I mean like there would be times when uh they would draw different people within the system and they would draw someone who looks somewhat like me, though I was not very active and did not like speak with them. So I existed, though I wasn't active until about 2020. And specifically, uh, it was during the Jupiter and Saturn Great Conjunction on December 20th. We were doing poi or something. If you don't know what that is, it's a type of flow arts. And some kind of energy shifted, and someone within the system felt that, and I kind of just appeared to them, I guess you could say. And while I was active within the system at that point, I also did not, I wasn't fully there. I had what I call shards of myself in different places, and I didn't really feel um, fully grounded, if that makes sense. Um, so, okay, I'm reading. Um, yeah, I honestly feel that I don't consider myself necessarily a fictive either, not only because of the what's it called? The origin of the usage of the word fictive. It also just doesn't seem like how I feel about things. I feel that I'm myself and I'm myself first, and then other people might know my image or name as something that's fictional, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, hmm, hmm, still thinking about where to go. Yeah, I also am always trying to find different uh words to use other than source. Source is just what is easy enough to uh excuse me. It's just easy to explain it to people that way, since many people, at least within the fiction community, know what that means. Um, I suppose the biggest part of where I want to get to with this panel is the journey I made with understanding myself over the past few years and how I did this, though it was more of, I'll explain. So, back in 2020, when I did awaken to the system, well, so I guess I'll start a little bit further back than that. So, in 2019, when I started living with my partner, we uh, we were not in a very good mental health state. Um, we had basically just left our abusive home situation and were starting everything over. We didn't have much at the time. And I suppose we were very focused on not just like bettering ourselves and our mental health, but also understanding ourselves spiritually, since that was always something that was important to us. And we were in this state of just, I guess, constant change, where even though I knew, due to like my situation with my mental health and my disabilities that I was figuring out that I had, that I would most likely be homeless at some point, I still wanted to, how do I say, um, no matter what happened, I still wanted to understand myself, since that was something I knew that no one could really, I guess, take away from me, you know? And when we did eventually go hmm, homeless, I noticed that I would always try to, and like, sorry, I'm trying to figure out a way to format this without rambling too much.
You're doing good. You're doing good. You're doing just fine.
Yeah. Um, so
Relax and let yourself talk.
okay. So while I knew that it would happen, I still wanted to just, I guess, ride the wave and learn more about myself as I went, because I felt like I would be able to get through it if I did that. So at the time, I did not really believe in my spiritual abilities or myself, honestly, very much. But I noticed that I would rely a lot on my intuition in situations and where I could not. It would have been hard for me to get through it otherwise. For example, when I was.
You predicted bacon. What? Please bring up how you predicted bacon. You need to tell them that you predicted bacon. Okay.
Sorry. My partner was speaking to me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nova. Um, I've always had. I always wanted to speak in front of people, but also it's hard to. It'll be okay. So, I feel as if I've lost my place in where I was speaking on this. As it stands right now, is there any questions that anyone has? All right. Um, I guess I will try to circle back around to telling this in a more um I don't remember what the word is, time sequenced sense in a chronological order. And I'll just try to say things that I feel are relevant. I'm not try to force myself into saying it in chronological order. So, something that I've seen people talk a lot about recently within the server here, the is that people have been speaking a lot about their own intuition and how they wish that they could figure out what is their intuition, what is their anxiety, or their emotions, and what is really happening with that. Um, well, I don't personally have any uh, what's it called? Advice, because it differs for each person. Whenever I try to follow my intuition, as I did back then, it seems that intuition is a lot quieter than, and it feels different than anxieties. Excuse me. And as it was back then, I was experiencing a lot of anxieties. Um, so hmm, I keep getting stuck. Thank you everyone for being so supportive and patient. Honestly, um, anxiety is getting the better of me at the moment. And I'm trying to do some breaths. Um, Right. Okay. So, hmm. So, yes, I was talking about intuition and, hmm. Oh, right. So I would like to ask the question, is there anyone here who has had a, not special, but specific or, noteworthy moment in which they use their intuition for something? Um, for myself, there's a funny story I have in which I was at a hotel at the time with my partner, and suddenly I just had this knowing that, tomorrow we're definitely going to have bacon for breakfast, and my partner was like, "What? Well, that would be fun." And at breakfast the next morning at the hotel, they indeed did have bacon. So now, whenever I use my intuition for something, we both jokingly say that I predicted bacon.
They didn't
I
have bacon any other day.
Yeah, they didn't have bacon any other day.
There was no precedent. They just had bacon the next morning.
Do you want to be in my presentation next time?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm just joking with you.
Okay. If you'll have me, though, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I have moments like I have many moments like that where I got screwed over for not listening to my intuition. Uh, for sure. um, Goodness. I absolutely understand that it's too personal. Just do what you're comfortable with. Um, so yeah. I know where I was going now. So, yes, about intuition. When I was uh basically living out of my car with my partner, there were times where I would need to use my intuition for things. And just as I said, I was not believing in myself or my abilities very much at the time, and still it's occasionally, or maybe more than occasionally, a problem. Uh So whenever I would need something like, because we were traveling a lot and we were planning to get to a certain state, I would need to ask for gas money and would try to use my intuition for. Hmm? I'm reading. Hmm. I just want to pause every time I see someone mention something, so I keep up. Okay, so yes. So yeah, I would try to use it for many things, though it was difficult due to the anxiety, and sometimes I wouldn't listen to it, and I would end up getting into some trouble. Though when I did listen, it was easier. I definitely yeah, intuition is also a background thing, as um was said. Oh, not background thing, but uh someone had said that they use their intuition all the time but don't really realize it. Yeah. I think that it's easier when, for myself anyways, when I don't think so hard about how it's an intuitive thing and more of like how people say is a gut feeling. How sometimes with intuition being paranoid. Yeah, that too. When not even when I'm in stressful situations, sometimes I'll still have paranoid feelings and not be able to tell it apart from another thing. So it can be hard to really act on what you think or what you feel, I guess in this case, would be um, the best thing to do. Um, hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I'm unsure how to say your name, but you said that you follow your intuition with people and that you sometimes just have like the right vibes about someone. I think that that's like one of my favorite ways that I've ever made friends with someone is when I just feel that they're like the right person to be friends with. There was once someone in my high school who um I ended up being friends with because I didn't know it, but we were both into like all of the same things, which was nice. Even though I moved away from that place eventually. Um so yeah. Uh yeah. I have moved a lot in my uh life, but I am happy to say that where I am right now I'll probably be for quite a few years. Um uh I've hmm, where am I going? Ah, so I guess I'm going to steer away from conversation about intuition to try to um get to another point that I have written down. But it's okay if everyone still talks about it. I just have something written down here. So a common issue that I had within the our collective is that as I was not fully grounded where I was at that time, it was difficult for others in the system to uh, accept that I was there, because while there was many people in the system in which would be considered fictives and other things like that, there were it was harder for people to believe that it was spiritual in nature, I suppose, due to previous experiences that we had had in not as I guess healthy otherkin spaces. Since there was a lot of divide on at least where we were, plurality and otherkin things. So even though we had this intuition that even though we were denying, not me specifically, but others, and were denying kind of the idea or feeling that I was there, eventually I would be able to be, I suppose, accepted into the system. Over time, we realized that as I was becoming more myself and being more grounded in where I was, that I seemed to have a stronger connection with everyone than we thought. We had thought perhaps that I was not even a kin type that we had, but just someone that we had called to us because we enjoyed like, I guess the term that people have used in the past for this before is soul bonding, but I don't know if that's really a term that I would use in this situation. So we figured out over time that I seem to have a connection to the body in which I was supposed to, like, this is hard for me to describe, and I'll try it from several different angles, where I was quote unquote supposed to have been born into the body, but someone held my space for me. And that was another hurdle to jump over because we didn't really. It was hard to understand how something like that would have happened for us. While we did intuitively feel that it happened. Oh, so another soul bond. Yeah, the definition of the term can be really loose. It seems like even in it's changed over time, I feel like, or maybe there's been different definitions, I suppose. So yes. Um at one point, as I was not fronting, I seem to have an external self, like more spiritually related self that others in the system could speak to while I wasn't fronting. And I was able to speak to them as if I was just any other I guess, spirit that was around them. And I started trying to manifest myself more strongly so that they would pay attention to me. Um, you know, so there's this particular moment that the previous host of this body remembers, and that I remember them experiencing. It's kind of strange seeing myself from someone else's eyes like that, but basically what happened was when our partner and I got a new apartment, we both felt as if there was they both felt as if there was something there. We both are able to tell when there are different spirits and beings and whatnot around, though sometimes we try to shut it off because it's overwhelming to experience that all the time, especially when you're in places in public that you don't really want to be. It's kind of like having an extra crowd on top of the crowd that's already there. Um, so I try to filter that out sometimes. But, anyhow, so they both, terms are confusing for the self. So they were just coming into the apartment and felt that as if there was someone there. And suddenly they both turned to each other and realized that it was me. And before they could even wonder who exactly it was. Yeah. It can be overwhelming. Sorry, I was reading a comment that someone put. Um, so, hmm. Before they could even question who it was, I spoke to them both very clearly to the point where they both heard it at the same time, and they looked at each other and realized, did he just say that? And then we told each other what we had heard. So that was the first very strong manifestation I had to them. And it was harder for them to deny or write off exactly what was going on, especially after something like that. Thankfully, I developed a closer bond with the beings who resided within this body, and I was able to ground myself more. As time has gone on, I have been able to, I guess, gather my shards of myself together and be more whole. Sometime this year, myself and the being who used to reside in this body switched places, and it's been interesting. I'm definitely going to do another panel on that specific topic, the uh, next summit, since this is going better than I thought. um, a lot better, honestly. I was worried that I would simply stop speaking as I have when doing presentations for school. um, so yes. Uh, I guess the best way that I could describe what happened was that I kind of just meditated and switched, I suppose, but more permanently rather than temporarily. The other beings within this body in the system, thank you. I really appreciate the support again. Um, so yes, I forgot what I was saying, but that's kind of where I am now. I'm discovering more about what exactly may have gone on with our birth that caused that. We've always been very interested in ourselves spiritually since we were very young. when we were even about 4 years old, we had ideas about I have to hurry up and grow up so I can do what I want in this world, which we didn't realize was exactly in the way that we thought about it. We didn't realize that it was a unique experience because we had the idea that, like, putting together what happened in our early life, I guess it was different. Yeah, adulting is for the birds, he said. Yeah. We we were just in a hurry to figure things out, I guess. But give my younger self, what advice would I give my younger self if I could? Oh man. Um well, I'm honestly not sure. I feel like I did my best, though. I guess if anything, I would just say accept yourself and love yourself, because the sooner that you do that, the easier things will be. Because as much as that sounds like probably everything you've heard, it's not untrue. When we started to accept things about ourselves, whether it be our plurality or our gender identity, it's just easier to exist and speak to people and speak about what your experiences are, like I'm doing right now. I could not imagine doing this, uh, even like, oh god, I couldn't even imagine doing this back in 2022 or 2021. The idea of that is very intimidating. But going to the first summit actually helped quite a lot. And speaking in front of other people at the panel to ask questions helped too. Oh, I suppose I never really explained myself. I don't consider my, and I use this term just so everyone knows what I mean. Oh, Draconic says, when I first became plural, I definitely was uncomfortable too. It's nice to hear that it's a normal thing to experience. Yes. From the experiences I've had meeting plural people in person and online, it is definitely a very common experience to be uncomfortable. Unless you were in a very lucky situation in which people already were accepting, like people around you, like your parents, friends, etc., were already accepting of plurality, it can be a hard thing to accept because it's such a big thing, regardless of what kind of plurality or what your experiences are. It can be intimidating. Um, yeah. So, seeing as we have about 10 minutes, is there any questions or comments or anything that anyone has before I like start to wrap things up, I guess? I know that I have like 10 minutes, but I'm just accounting for my anxiety here. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that. This has been an inspiration for that panel. Yeah, you're saying that it took you a long time to figure out or to not feel like you were making it up for attention. Yeah, I definitely understand that too. That's something I come back to yeah, that's something I come back to a lot. I usually use DBT to help me with that. Behavioral therapy, that's the word. It helps me sort out my anxious thoughts and or not even anxiety per se, but yeah, those kinds of thoughts. So oh, yes. I guess another part of my experience as myself is as like I said, I'm learning more about myself and understanding myself better. It has been odd to just wake up in a world in which I am technically famous but not quite. It's as if I woke up and even though I was famous, no one really recognizes me. Kind of like a weird body swap movie or something. Though honestly, I'm happy that no one can recognize me because not everyone has one the most savory opinions about who is perceived to be who I'm perceived to be, if that makes sense. And honestly, I've never been interested in being popular, even in my past life, concurrent life, previously concurrent. Um, yeah. When I was going from place to place and house to house, there was a place that I lived. I was, I guess, volunteering more, like at an alpaca ranch in Colorado. And there was a night in which I was playing Smash Ultimate with a few people there. And there was someone who was visiting the ranch, and they just I was thinking to myself, and this was an intuitive thing, it would be nice if I could speak to someone about my experiences. And then I heard one of my spiritual friends slash family say, not everyone is going to be open to that, even if they are open to spirituality or kins or etc. Because and this is something I've experienced only online up until this point, wherein someone will have a negative experience connotation with a character and decide to put that onto a fictive or someone with that kin type. And so what happened was when they saw that I picked Sephiroth, the person in which I not who I am, but I'm similar to by name and looks, I suppose. She was very upset. I like to feel as if at times she might have had some kind of connection based off of how intensely this came out. Um, she basically just I don't know how to explain what happened. It was like she was offloading some kind of like intense emotional connection that she had because she just was like you saying like pointing at the screen at the character and like I can't believe that this and this and this and like I can't believe that happened at this part in the game or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I guess in saying that, I just was talking about an experience that I had that was very strange. Um, so yeah, there was that happened once. Um, oh, I have a few minutes left. I don't really want to end on that note, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it has been an interesting few years, and I hope to do a panel like this again so that I can, I guess, whenever I thought of doing this panel, I wanted to give other people inspiration to do panels about their own experiences as well. Because whenever other people do panels about, like, for example, the uniqueness of Draconic was actually what I was going to call my panel until I realized that that was something that was already taken. But it was a funny coincidence. Um, yeah. Thank you, everyone. I'd absolutely like to do another panel. So yes, thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate all of the support. And yeah, if anyone has any questions later on, feel free to at me and then DM me or anything. Yeah. And also, before I go, I have a artist. I'm in the artist den, so if you're interested in that, that's there. Okay.